guys, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be using Bejeweled from my shop, and I think I'm going to use glitter headers, which I know is like weird for me because like I almost never use them, and I know they're super popular, but I figured I would go ahead and try. So we have glitter headers. We have the deco, which I did explain in my new releases that this girl is the same size as this girl. She will have an outline to her, but you can essentially like replace this girl with putting that on top of it because I made them the same size. So whichever skin tone you are or you want to display, you can do that. We have the full boxes, the ombre boxes, the littles and headers. We have our sidebar, the half boxes, and did I say full boxes were back there? I think I said half boxes. I think I do that all the time. Then we have the dates, and then we have the bottom washi. So I absolutely loved this kit, and I really liked designing this kit too. So it was like a lot of fun doing this kit. I think it's nice, like a different tune from Christmas. So in my new planner, by my new planner, my old planner for Rewind. So I'm actually switching planners. I took out all of the pages, RIP first half or second half of 2016. And I actually love how thin it is. When I pulled it out, I was like, oh my God. Like I forget how thin they are when they come. Gonna put this bottom washi down. So you guys really liked my story time in my I Got Engaged plan with me. So I figured I may do a second one, as in like right now. I don't know. I mean, you guys responded really well to it. So I didn't want to be like, oh, I'm gonna do one every time. But I figured I would go ahead and do another one, because I actually enjoyed it. I do get lost in my stories. I'm not the, what's the word I'm looking for? Like I have like shiny object syndrome, like all the time. That's not the right thing. Point taken right here. Trying to get a habit tracker out. So I figured I would do my story time on Michael and I buying our first house. So we bought our house in February. It'll be 2 years ago, which is crazy to think about. So I did mention in the I Got Engaged plan with me that I'm actually going to use regular headers on the sidebar. Actually, I'm going to do this right over this guy. I originally was going to I kind of want two. One to check off that I went, yeah. I don't even know what I was saying. Like, totally lost my train of thought. That's what I get for trying to plan and tell a story at the same time. I think I just said when I bought my house. So, okay. When Michael and I first started dating, we were living together in an apartment with my best friend, and we got along great. It was super nice. And then we went into a house, then we went into an apartment, and we lived in the apartment for 2.5 years, I think is what it was. Or just shy of 2.5 years. So as soon as I graduated, we essentially went right into the apartment, which hindsight 2020, I would have liked to live at home and bank some of the money. But you know what, in reality, I probably wouldn't have. I mean, I don't want to say what we could have done, but that's kind of how I felt at the time, and I was like, no, but I didn't. We ended up getting the apartment together. and I'm really glad we did. So I didn't feel like we actually kind of like, we didn't backtrack in our relationship. It was just super like continuous, which was great because I think had we gone like back home, both of us, because he was actually at home for the first half of, I think, what year was it? 2012, or I should say the second half of 2012, because he actually graduated a semester before me. And so he actually went back home to live with his parents. And I didn't do this right already. I'm just gonna commit. Cause like if you can line it all up with like the outline of that, but I didn't do that. Anyway, so what I was saying is that he didn't live in an apartment and he left at home, so he was like, okay, well, I really want to move out essentially as soon as I graduate. Which is fine, like it didn't bother me. I wasn't like, oh my God, I don't want to live at home or an apartment. Oh my God, I just saw that Grimm starts today. Oh my God, what am I doing? Why am I filming a plan with me? Okay, so I had trace shows on this day. So I'm gonna have to mix these guys up. I originally thought I was going to color block, but I'm not. Okay. So we got our apartment. We lived there for 2.5 years, and then we went and looked for houses. We had, I swear to God, like if this was the state of Georgia and this was like Atlanta, this is like north, south, and then we were like all the way up north into almost like the middle of Atlanta. We couldn't find anything. So we're like, oh my God, what the heck is going on? This is driving me crazy. Like, why can't we find a place to live? And we eventually find one, obviously. And we were hunting and hunting, and we actually were in this one area, and it's a lot of older houses. Not that that's anything wrong with it, but we were finding time and time again, the photos of the house were like 8 million times better than the houses, and it kept happening over and over again in this one area. So we're like, you know what? I think we're going to move on from this one area. I'm gonna just pull in the little date dots here. And so we decided, we're like, you know what? We're not gonna look here anymore. Where do we actually want to be? Since we had such a large scope, we're like, yes, let's like live pretty much anywhere in Atlanta, but like let's live by a highway. So if we have to get downtown, or we want to go up north or anything, like we want it to be like on a major artery. Well, with that comes, okay, well that kind of narrows down our search, and we're like, okay, great. So at least we're like a little bit narrower. We can do this. We can find a place. It'll be all right. And come to find out, we were living in the area we are now, and we're like, okay, well, we really like this area, like a lot. So why don't we like look in this area and like take our time and not rush. So we find a house. It wasn't in our area. We're like, it's okay. We like it. So let's get this house. We're like, what's the word I'm looking? It's on the tip of my tongue. I can feel it. So we put an offer in. It's accepted, and we knew the offer was high, and we knew it wouldn't appraise for what it was. First mistake. And we're like, okay, we figure, you know, I mean, it's only like, I thought it was maybe $10,000 more than what it should have been. And in that price range we were in, that $10,000 was a decent amount of money. And we were like, okay, that's fine. You know, it'll be okay. Like, it's no big deal. They'll come to the realization when it appraises, that's what it will be, and we can move on. And it obviously didn't happen that way if we're telling the story here. So we come in and we find out that there are 3 owners of the house. So it's like this one couple and like her brother or something. And I'm like, okay, you know, that's not the end of the world. I just wish we would have known that there were 3 people owning the house and not just this like couple, because I feel like when you have 3, it's a little bit harder to make a decision. And so I'm like already mentally like shopping for the house, although we pretty much had everything like, we had everything major for the house because we had a pretty big apartment. And we're like, okay, great. We finally have our house. Like, we are literally 2 weeks before close, and because we did a short close, we're like, okay, let's do 3 weeks to a month. Okay, so you do your appraisal and you do your inspection. Well, there were some things on the inspection that came back and we had to have them fix it. They fixed it, okay. Then they came back and said, okay, we fixed it, but you can't have X, Y, and Z. Fine. I don't need X, Y, and Z. I don't need your pool table. Good luck moving it. And then it was 2 weeks before close when the official appraiser came in and appraised it, and we got it back. And it was like 17,000 below. No, I think it was even more than that. It was 20 below. Yeah, it was 20 below. Is that right? No, 15 below. I don't know. I don't remember what the final price was. Clearly I'm having issues here. So it was either 15 or 20 below, and we're like, okay, well, that's actually lower than we expected. So they're gonna come to the realization that they vastly overpriced it because of the inspection coming in so low. Well, sure enough, they're like, well, see, we're not gonna lower the price. And I was like, well, you are, because there's no way I'm going to pay by $20,000 more than what is like being offered in the house. I was like, there's no way. If you do that, you are stupid. Because then you're already $20,000 below what the average cost is. It's like, that's like common sense 101, that you should never do that. Like, no. And so, okay, now we are literally a week before close. So we're going back and forth. I keep saying no. Mike is saying no. So we're just like, no, we're not gonna pay something that's really overpriced. And sure enough, they're like, okay, we accept. So we're waiting for the written approval of the acceptance of what the counter was. So they took off literally everything. We were getting like a fridge, washer and dryer, the pool table I didn't want, but it was there, and they didn't want to move it. So I was like, that's fine, just whatever. It's not the reason I'm buying the house. And this is when we find out that there is a third owner. So actually, the brother and the husband agreed to sell it, but the wife said no. She's like, I want this X amount of money for my house. And when you look at all the comps, like, we knew it was high, but we didn't realize it was that high. Otherwise, we probably would have never done it. Hindsight 2020, we didn't do it again, but we decided, okay, we're walking away. So we ate quite a bit of money. And unfortunately, it was a lesson. It was, I don't want to say it's a good lesson to learn, but it was definitely something. I don't want to say it was a good lesson, but we haven't made the mistake yet that if you know it's overpriced, don't say, yeah, I want it. Because you're gonna get screwed. And I mean, we walked away from quite a bit of money, but it's, to be honest, where we are now compared to where we would have been with that, it would have made a huge difference. So that was house number 1. Literally a week before close, we walk away from the house. I thought that would be the worst of it. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. Oh, what am I doing? Let go. Okay, so now we're on the house we bought. So again, we were looking at houses. We raised our price. We're like, okay, well, these houses are awful. Let's just like raise our price. And because there was like a certain amount that I wanted to spend, and it was for my own personal financial reasons, how I wanted to do my mortgage, and you know, each person's different. So it's a very personal choice of how you would do it, and I wanted it this way, and we're like, okay, well, maybe we can't do it that way. Let's come up a little bit. Well, we end up coming quite a bit, and we got the current house we're in, and it's a new build. So we decided that we were going to go new build because I absolutely loved the setup. It was just amazing. I was 100% into it. I saw it almost towards the beginning, and actually our friends live in here. So we weren't familiar, like we lived in this area, but we weren't from around this side of that area. God, I did it again. And so we were just like, oh, okay, well, I was like, this is my house. I literally sent it to Mike, and he's like, no, it's too expensive. And I'm like, well, too bad, it's my house. And come to find out, I'm like, oh, can we at least go see it? And he's like, oh, you know, this is so-and-so's house, which is our friend's house. And I was like, what? No, they live in XYZ. And they're like, yeah, that's where this is. And I was like, really? And so I end up texting our friends. It's like, hey, so I'm like absolutely in love with this house, and it's in your neighborhood. Do you care if we look at it? People may think that was weird to ask our friends if we can look at a house, but I didn't want to be like, oh, because they have been here for 4 years, or 3 years end up being 4 years or something like that by the time we moved in. So I just didn't want to all of a sudden just like show up on their doorstep and be like, hey, by the way, we bought a house here. So I just asked them, and you know, they had no problem with it whatsoever. And it's not like we overly see each other, so it's like a good balance of, like, it's super easy. Like when we all hang out, I just walk right down the street. It's great. And so let's get on to buying this house. So we put an offer in. It's a new build, so it is what it is. You literally put what they are asking for, and then we go to the design studio and we pick out all our finishes. So Mike wanted this like really yellow granite, and I said no. And he was just like, no, it's not gonna be as yellow as you think it is. And I said to him, yes, it will be 150%. Just watch. It will absolutely be this yellow. And he's like, no, look, theirs isn't this yellow. So I was like, okay. Because like you can change it when you get there. I was like, that's fine. Knowing that it would be too yellow, I was just like, you know what, pick your battles. It's fine. And so, needless to say, we get to the granite. It was too yellow. And he even agreed it was too yellow. I was like, I told you. So I guess like we got to pick out our actual slabs, which was awesome. And we went to some place up in, actually close to where we both went to school. It was actually kind of funny. And so we're like, oh my God, let's go to XYZ, like our little old restaurant we used to go to. But anyway, so we go pick out our granite, and then this is like the beginning. So we pick out our granite, And then we get a call, I would say 3 weeks later, that granite was gone. And I'm like, I don't understand what you mean by gone. They're like, yeah, it's gone. Like, someone else claimed it either right before you or she didn't tag it. I don't know. And actually the place we got our granite from actually had really bad reviews, and I see why. So they called me and said it's gone. And they're like, well, you need to come up and pick out a new one. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I don't know. I want my granite. I picked out literally, it was like perfect granite. And it was just like, there was only speckles. There were no like lines or imperfections. Imperfections, it's natural stone. But it was like literally the perfect piece of granite. And we had to pick out 1.5. And because we had so much in our like house. And so we pick it out, and then I go back in, pick out another one. And actually this one isn't bad. It's the same, I think, like type. I don't know what color it is, but it has it's almost like a cream with a little bit of burgundy flecks that are not like glittery, but just like burgundy in it, and then like darker gray. And our cabinets are kind of like a cherry, so the burgundy really plays off of it. If I remember to insert a photo, I'll insert it here. Right here, if I remember. And the funny thing is about all of that, the reason I'm telling you is because when we went, I should say so I did all this because Mike's just like, I don't care. It'll just be what it is when we're done. I'm like, no, I'm too, what's the word? I don't want to say overbearing, but I'm controlling, maybe the right word for that. But I was like, you know what? You will be a big girl and you will not freak out. If something's wrong, it is what it is. You will be all right. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, okay, yeah, I believe that. Yeah, I should have believed it. So I show up at my house, and the first thing I notice is that we have a hearth. I specifically asked for no hearth. It's a personal preference. There is nothing that made me like, oh, I don't want a hearth because it's ugly. No, I think they're pretty. But for me, I wanted our house to look a little bit more modern. And the way it was in the model is they didn't have a hearth, and they had the fireplace like up a little bit on the wall. And I was like, yes, that's what I want. I absolutely need that. And I was like, great, can we just have that? And so we worked it in. Come to find out, well, they didn't do the fireplace up. It was close to the ground. And I'm like, okay, that's not supposed to be like that. But pick your battles, Vanessa. Pick your battles. Okay, it's fine. So, hold on. I need to think. I need to use my brain. And so they put the hearth in. I tell them to rip it out because it was not supposed to be there. And the fireplace was supposed to be raised, but I wasn't gonna make them raise the fireplace because that's kind of like ridiculous. They should have done it right the first time, but they didn't. And that's fine. I was like, Vanessa, you will be okay. I'm losing my train of thought. Did I just screw that up? I think I did. Oy vey. It's okay. And then the next thing, okay, I go there first. And then I'm like, oh great, our granite's supposed to be installed. Well, it doesn't get installed on the day it's supposed to. No big deal. I'm not like, oh my God, you said it would be installed. It's not installed. Don't really care. I would care at the end if it wasn't ready, but it was fine. And so I go, the granite is installed in all the bathrooms. So you got to pick the shape of the sink. I chose square, and I chose plain in every bathroom except for our bathroom. So we had some yellow thing in our half bath on the main level. In the basement, we had a circle like speckle thing. Then on the guest bathroom, we had some weird, I don't even remember at this point. Like they were all literally all different colors, in all different size shape sinks. So some were circle, some were like a wider circle, one was square. I'm like, what the heck is wrong with you? Like, what are you thinking? We literally picked this out and you ordered this. I'm like, is that what you originally were gonna put in the house and you just didn't see the sheet? I'm like, what the heck is going on? And I know that may sound snobby, but you have to think, we spent like extra money on these things to get them the way we wanted. So it should be the way we wanted. And I was like super discouraged. I'm like, oh boy, this is like number one. My aunt was saying, you know what? I've had horror stories with building, because I guess she built her own house like the first time. She's like, I'll never do it again. And I'm like, why? It can't be that bad. Point proven. I got it. Lesson learned. So that was the sinks. Okay. Then our granite gets installed in the kitchen. I show up and I'm like, this isn't the correct granite. And like, what do you mean? I'm like, this isn't the right granite. And then, okay, that's fine. Then they pull out that granite. So keep in mind, they've already glued it down to our cabinet. So now they're ripping them out and we have a lot of counter space, like a lot of counter space. And so they rip it out and I'm like, okay, great. Then they put the correct granite in, like color-wise, but you got to choose like the edges of it on both sides. And then they put the sink in, and then they put the correct granite with the wrong finishes. So they put the wrong sink in, they put a double, we got a single, and then they put the granite in, but didn't cut the soap or curved the edges. It's like a complete curve, because I run into edges all the time, and in our island, I didn't want to run into edges. So it was curved, and I hit it all the time. So I'm like, yes, that was the best decision I've ever made. And so now we're like, okay, this is the second time this has gone in and you still have screwed it up. Okay, rip it out. Literally, I was not accepting that finish. And again, that may sound snotty, but we literally paid extra. Like, it cost us an extra $500 to have that edge curved. And we didn't match the edge in our island to the edge on the like excess counter space. And I was like, that's fine. Like, I purposely chose two different edges because I thought that would look better. And I originally wanted two different color cabinets, but it just didn't work out and it was fine. I didn't really care about that, but I was like, okay, no problem. Then they reinstall it. So third time they reinstalled it. Wrong again. They didn't cut the soap dispenser and the edges are wrong. Third time. Okay, so keep in mind, I'm like freaking out now. I'm like, oh my God, what is going on? I am like going to flip my kahunas because like at this point, you're just like, what are you doing? Like, you're literally not following anything. So I am literally calling the project manager of like the site daily. What are you doing? Why does this look like that? And I didn't care if I came off as like, I was never rude because I needed them to literally do it the way I wanted it. But like, it was just like, what are you doing? I was like, can you like go on site? Like, are you not looking at my, my house? Like, what's going on? Can you please be on site when they are making massive changes to our house? And so he ends up going, what do I want to do here? Think this right here. Ooh, that's not straight. So he ends up coming on site and we actually end up having a meeting because he called for the meeting. He wanted to apologize because so many things have gone wrong in our house. And we're like, okay, that's fine. So they reinstall the granite and it's correct except for the back edge now. Oh no, I just ripped that. So, you know what? I was like, you know what? We're not changing it. It's fine. Just leave it. But I still need a soap dispenser. And they're like, okay, so yikes. So they go in and they actually water drill the soap dispenser on our hardwood floors. Yep. It's like, I'm not gonna have a heart attack. It's fine. I'm sure they know what they're doing. I see why they have bad reviews. But just saying. So we get all our sinks in like every other bathroom. The granite is like half fixed. They finally fix it. And then it comes to, they put the hearth back in. They literally fixed it and put hardwood floors over my whole entire like fireplace area. Then they put the hearth on top of those hardwood floors. After we said, no, we didn't want one. The project manager knew we didn't want one. I mean, he literally wrote on our drywall, no hearth. And they put it back in. It's like, okay, don't have a heart attack. Don't freak out, but I'm gonna kill someone. So we tell them to rip it out again. And I said that the floors need to be replaced because there'd be too much damage at this point to the floors to have it already in, ripped out, already in, and then ripped out again. So they actually ended up like repairing the floor. And so they didn't replace those boards, they just repaired it. And I'm like, okay, don't freak out. Okay, so we go in for like one of our walkthroughs that wasn't like the one before we move in, but it was still another one that I just did a walkthrough on. And I'm just browsing, and they have the thermostats installed. And I'm like, okay, why the heck are they in the middle of the wall? Like not on an edge, like literally, here's the wall. It was right here. And it was like right here, like in the middle of the middle. I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh no. That's not how it was in the model. So I go to our front office guy, and he was probably so sick of me being in his office. I'm like, so we wanted a floor plug also, which was never installed. And then I was like, no, before we are closing on this house, it needs to be installed. If you have to rip up drywall and the floors, it's your fault because we asked for this before any floors and before the full ceiling was done. So we asked for everything and they didn't do it. And we're like, you know what? You're gonna still have to put this in, so figure out how you're doing it. That was literally the first change we made to our house was that, and it was the last thing to go into our house. Well, almost the last thing. So once we went to him and I was like, so you do realize that they are in the middle of the wall? And he's like, no, they're not. They're on the side. I go, no, they're not. They're literally in the middle. And he's like, I guess I don't understand what you're saying. I was like, okay, let's follow through the model home. I said, this is where they are in the model. They're over here in the model, and this is where they are in my house. And he was like, oh, really? And so he walks down and he's like, sure enough, they're in the middle of the wall. And he's like, yeah, they're not supposed to be there. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I know. Like, yeah, who would ever put them in the middle? So we have the guy come back out. I'm there when he's moving them and we're talking. He's like, yeah, I'm the one that thought this would be perfect for thermostats because like the returns are right there. He's like, yeah, I thought it would be perfect there. I was like, so you thought it would be good to put a thermostat in the middle of the wall? I was like, when's if you want to hang a photo or a picture? He's like, oh, I didn't think of that. I'm like, what? Is math hard? Like, am I missing like something major that you would not think that someone wants to hang something on their wall? So it was just a whole disaster. And finally we got the thermostats moved and I said, oh, can you please put them here? We want it on this side, like in our master bedroom. I'm just leaving that. So we had it here in the master and I wanted it next to the other plate that was on this side for like the light switches. They have it over here. So it's literally like, it's like, it's fine. It's not in the middle of the wall, but still literally it's behind a mirror because it's in like the only other spot we have that's like decor wise. So, okay, I'm gonna decorate, but I have more that's wrong with our house. So you guys can either close this out by now. It's probably a 40-minute plan with me. So now that we have the thermostats moved, because Genius over here decided that it was a good idea to put them in the wall. Okay, those are moved, great. Then comes the plate switch for the, like in the floor. I can't think of what it's called. Just the plug in the floor. So we literally went back and forth for like, I would say probably I was there every day for a week to get that thing installed. No one was installing it. I was like, you guys, we're closing on our house in like 2 weeks and it's still not installed. Can we do something about that? Is there like a fix coming? Like, can we please like do something? And so they finally get it installed. And so now we're going through our final walkthrough. And I'm like, okay, great. I literally walk into my house. These guys, I have curse words coming out of my mouth right now, put the hearth back in our house. It was removed 3 times. I have a stone fireplace. So they are now demolishing the stone. And I'm sitting here, I was like, I look at Gary. He's like, I know, I am so sorry. Not Gary, that was the front guy. I literally look at the site manager. He's like, I know, I'm so sorry. I told them not to put it in, but they put it in. We're literally closing the next day. And I said, are you kidding me? Like, what is going on here? And he's like, I just don't know. They must have done it when I wasn't here. And I'm like, right, but there was not supposed to be a hearth. They have literally removed it 3 times. And so they actually remove it, and we couldn't like walk over that area for a little bit because they restained it. They actually had to remove the boards because they were so damaged from having them come in and out. And I was like, yeah, I mean, what did you expect? And so once that was done, then we're doing our final walkthrough, and they had just installed the chandelier. So they installed the chandelier in the middle of the house. I was like, what do you mean? And like literally, so our house, like for where our living room and kitchen is, so our kitchen, like let's say our kitchen is this right here. And then we have like the bathroom behind the kitchen, like on here. And then we have a walkway to upstairs. And then our dining room is right here. They literally put it here. So like the stairs are here. The dining room would be like here. So it was so off-centered. I looked at him, I was like, what did you guys do? Why did you put that in the middle of the room and not on the side? And he's like, I don't know, they just put it there. And I'm like, we have to move it. So they move it over probably 1.5 feet to like, if this is like the whole thing of the dining room, it's now in the middle, and we have a 12-person table. So it is like the perfect spot for it. So that was really lucky. I really lucked out on that one because I didn't think they were gonna move it at this point because there were so many things wrong with it. Like our house, it was like one thing after another, and I guarantee I'm missing stuff because I feel like, I'm like, wait, that didn't sound like that was that much wrong. But I promise you, it was a disaster. And I probably sound kind of snooty, and I'll own it, but when you pay so much for this house, or a house, you would definitely don't want to run into things that are just mess ups. Like they just didn't pay attention. That's literally all they didn't do. And it just drove me crazy. So lesson learned, if you buy a new house, make sure you are on top of them with everything. But I love my house now. I promise you, it probably sounded worse and dramatic, and it really wasn't, but you have to think, you spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on houses, and it was just one thing after another. They at least stained our floors correct. So, okay. So again, I used the little date dots, all the full boxes. I have almost all the headers left. I have glitter headers, 1 checkbox left. I have the darker girl because I am like invisible. And then we have these left, a few things of washi, and some half boxes and quarter boxes that I'm going to hang on to for this week because I do have some appointments to attend to. All right, well, thank you guys so much for watching. I absolutely love this kit. I thought this was actually a really perfect kit for January. I wish I released it earlier. But I just didn't have time. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you kind of liked this house rant. Again, story times can be a little bit difficult to gauge if people are gonna like it or not. This was a long one, so if you made it to the end, thank you guys so much. I will catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.